Players. So during the closing arguments in the trial of Jeanne Whitefeather and her husband Donald Lantz, the assistant prosecutor looked at the jury and asked them a question. He asked, "Do you want to know what racists look like? If so, just look at them." The jury then found them guilty of neglect and forced labor involving their 5 black adopted children, in which prosecutors argued that they treated like slaves. According to prosecutors, they adopted the 5 siblings while living in Minnesota. Then they moved to a farm in Washington State in 2018 and then brought their family to West Virginia in May of 2023, when the children ranged in age from 5 to 16. Donald and Jeanne were arrested in October of 2023 after neighbors called 911 after they saw Donald lock the oldest girl and her teenage brother in a shed and leave the property. A deputy used a crowbar to get them out. Inside of the main home, a 9-year-old girl was found alone, crying in the loft with no protection from falling. A 4th child was found with Donald when they eventually returned home, and deputies were led to the couple's youngest daughter. Now, the children were found in dirty clothes and smelling of body odor, and the oldest boy was found barefoot with what appeared to be sores on his feet. All of the children were turned over to Child Protective Services, where they told a harrowing tale of living in this complete squalor and slave conditions. The oldest child, who is now 18, testified against them during the trial, and she said that they were forced to work outdoors using their hands to dig. She also said that they were fed a steady diet of peanut butter sandwiches at a scheduled time, some left over from a previous meal. Some kids were forced to stand in their rooms for hours and keep their hands on their heads. The oldest girl and boy shared a room, including the same bucket for using the bathroom, while the other held up a privacy sheet. She testified that they were locked in that shed for sometimes days on end, being fed peanut butter sandwiches, no access to water, no access to a bathroom, just using a bucket, and they also were recorded. The 2 people that did this would sit there and watch them being locked inside of that shed. But her attorney argued that the children wanted to be in the shed and that they were only assigned chores to teach them responsibility. She also claimed that the shed was a teenager hangout. Now look at that. What about that looks like a hangout? Prosecutors also entered racist text messages into evidence that they said were from Whitefeather. However, the attorney denied that they were her text messages. She claimed that the oldest daughter was using her phone and cursed all the time and used that racist language against her other siblings. The 18-year-old testified that Jeanne wouldn't even eat off the same plates that the children had ate off of. She would refer to them as dirty. Y'all, you can't make this stuff up. Now, Donald's attorney argued that the state's welfare agency is the one to blame here because they called them for help several times and they feel like they dropped the ball. I declare, honey, what a disgrace. So Jeanne was convicted on all 19 counts against her, including forced labor, civil rights violations, human trafficking, and child neglect. Her husband was found guilty on 12 counts out of 16. He was acquitted of the 4 counts of civil rights violations. They are expected to be sentenced in the next few months. I declare, honey, what a disgrace. The amount of physical, mental, and emotional trauma that those children went through, no prison sentence is going to be long enough for these 2. The recovery is going to be lifelong for these babies, and they didn't deserve it. Not only were they in the system, they were adopted and thinking that they were going to be taken care of, and instead they were forced into slave labor. So much so that the person that's supposed to be caring for them didn't even want to eat off the same plate that they were using. You can't make it up. Under the jail. Players, put your thoughts in the comments. It's Double D Mo for the Black Year News.